The sun had just begun its descent, casting long shadows over the small town of Glenwood as the residents eagerly made their way to the outskirts. There, on an expanse of land that had been abandoned for years, a dazzling carnival had sprung up overnight. Brightly colored tents and glittering lights beckoned to families, teenagers, and curious souls, promising a night of joy and excitement. Emma Walker, a local high school senior, clutched her younger brother's hand as they approached the entrance. "Stay close to me, Danny," she said, her voice a mixture of excitement and caution. The boy nodded, his wide eyes reflecting the twinkling lights ahead. The air buzzed with the sounds of laughter, cheerful music, and the distant cries of barkers enticing visitors to try their luck at various games. The scent of popcorn, cotton candy, and caramel apples wafted through the air, making Emma's stomach growl. She glanced around, trying to take in every detail. There was something almost too perfect about the carnival, something that set her nerves on edge despite the festive atmosphere. As they crossed the threshold, they were greeted by a jester on stilts who tipped his hat with a flourish. "Welcome to the greatest show on earth," he bellowed, his voice echoing unnaturally despite the din around them. Emma smiled politely, but Danny tugged at her sleeve, pulling her towards the game booths. They wandered past stalls adorned with oversized stuffed animals, goldfish bowls, and garishly painted signs promising grand prizes. Danny's eyes lit up at the sight of a balloon-popping game, and Emma handed over a few dollars, watching as he eagerly aimed the darts. She allowed herself to relax a little, enjoying her brother's happiness. Suddenly, a chill ran down her spine. Emma turned and saw an old woman standing by a nearby tent, her eyes fixed intently on Emma. The woman's face was obscured by shadows, but Emma could feel the weight of her gaze. Unease crept into her mind, but she shook it off, focusing on Danny's triumphant cheer as he won a small stuffed bear. They moved on, weaving through the crowd, drawn to the next attraction, a large, intricately decorated tent with a sign that read, "Madame Zara, Fortune Teller." Emma hesitated, but Danny pulled her inside, his curiosity getting the better of him. The interior of the tent was dimly lit, filled with the scent of incense and the sound of soft, mystical music. At the center, a round table covered in a deep purple cloth held a crystal ball. Behind it sat Madame Zara, a woman with piercing eyes and an enigmatic smile. Her fingers, adorned with numerous rings, beckoned them forward. "Welcome, young ones," she intoned, her voice smooth and melodic. "I see you have come seeking answers." Emma tried to protest, but Danny had already taken a seat, his face full of wonder. Reluctantly, she sat beside him. Madame Zara's eyes seemed to glow as she studied them. "Many secrets lie within this carnival," she murmured, her gaze locking onto Emma's. "Secrets that are better left undiscovered." Emma felt a shiver run through her. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The fortune teller's smile widened. "You shall see," she said cryptically, placing her hands on the crystal ball. A fog seemed to swirl within it, and as Emma watched, shapes began to form. She saw fleeting images of laughter turning to screams, of joyful faces contorted in fear. Madame Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Beware the shadows that lurk within the light. This carnival is not what it seems." Before Emma could ask anything more, the tent flap rustled, and a gust of wind extinguished the candles, plunging them into darkness. When the lights flickered back on, Madame Zara was gone, leaving Emma and Danny alone in the eerie silence. Emma's heart pounded as she led Danny out of the tent. The carnival's cheerful facade seemed to have dimmed, and a sense of foreboding settled over her. As they rejoined the throng of visitors, She couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to reveal itself. The vibrant lights and cheerful noise of the carnival seemed almost oppressive now, weighing heavily on Emma as she and Danny moved through the crowd. She couldn't shake the feeling of dread that Madame Zara's cryptic warning had instilled in her. Danny, on the other hand, seemed unfazed, his attention captured by a nearby cotton candy stand. "Can we get some, Emma? Please," he begged, eyes wide with anticipation. Emma forced a smile. "Sure, Danny. Just stay close, okay?" As they waited in line, Emma's thoughts kept drifting back to the fortune teller. What did she mean by secrets better left undiscovered? Was it just a ploy to scare them? Or was there something more sinister at play? She was snapped out of her reverie when the vendor handed Danny a fluffy pink cloud of cotton candy. His delighted grin momentarily lifted her spirits. They wandered through the carnival, trying to enjoy the various attractions. Yet no matter where they went, Emma couldn't escape the feeling that they were being watched. Every now and then she caught glimpses of the old woman from before, her shadowy figure slipping between the tents, always just out of sight. Her anxiety grew when they passed the Ferris wheel. Its carriages swung gently in the evening breeze, the creak of metal almost drowned out by the surrounding noise. Something about the way it loomed against the twilight sky made her uneasy. "Emma, look! It's the haunted house!" Danny's excited shout pulled her attention away. He was already running towards a large, Gothic structure adorned with fake cobwebs and eerie decorations. Emma hurried after him, her heart racing. "Wait, Danny! Don't go in alone!" But Danny was already at the entrance, his eagerness outweighing any sense of caution. Emma caught up just as he handed over their tickets to a grim-looking attendant dressed as a ghoul. With a resigned sigh, she followed her brother inside. The haunted house was dimly lit, filled with the typical array of jump scares and spooky decor. But as they ventured deeper, the atmosphere seemed to change. The air grew colder, and the darkness felt more oppressive. Emma noticed that the other visitors had vanished, leaving them alone in the labyrinthine corridors. "Emma, look!" Danny pointed to a door marked, "Fortunes Told." Against her better judgment, Emma allowed him to pull her inside. The room was small and sparsely decorated, dominated by a round table similar to the one in Madame Zara's tent. Seated behind it was the same old woman who had been watching them earlier. Her eyes glinted with a strange light as she gestured for them to sit. "Welcome back," she said, her voice sending a shiver down Emma's spine. "I see you've come seeking more answers." Emma hesitated, glancing at Danny, who seemed entranced. "Who are you? What do you want from us?" she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. The woman's smile was unsettling. "Names are unimportant, my dear. What matters is the curse that binds this place. The carnival was built on cursed land, and those who enter are drawn into its web." Emma's heart pounded. "A curse? What kind of curse?" "The land was once the site of a tragedy," the woman explained. "A traveling circus met with a terrible fate here many years ago. Their spirits linger, seeking revenge, and the carnival feeds off the energy of its visitors, trapping their souls." Danny looked confused, but Emma felt a cold sweat break out on her skin. "How do we break the curse?" she asked, her voice trembling. The woman's eyes bore into hers. "To break the curse, you must uncover the truth of what happened here and confront the spirits responsible. But beware, for they will not relinquish their hold easily." Suddenly, the room seemed to spin, and Emma felt dizzy. When she regained her senses, she and Danny were back outside the haunted house, the noise and lights of the carnival assaulting her senses. "What just happened?" Danny asked, looking bewildered. Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "I don't know, Danny. but we need to find out. This carnival is more dangerous than we realized." As they made their way through the throngs of unsuspecting visitors, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The curse was real, and they were now deeply entangled in its sinister web. As the night grew darker, the carnival's lights seemed to grow brighter, casting an almost ethereal glow over the grounds. Emma and Danny made their way to the Ferris wheel, its massive structure looming over them like a giant skeletal hand reaching for the sky. Danny's excitement about riding it hadn't waned, and Emma couldn't bear to disappoint him despite her growing unease. They joined the line, which moved swiftly. The Ferris wheel operator, a tall man with a worn cap and a vacant expression, ushered them into one of the carriages. "Enjoy the ride," he said, his voice devoid of enthusiasm. As their carriage ascended, Emma tried to appreciate the view. The carnival spread out below them like a sea of twinkling lights. Danny leaned over the edge, his face lit up with joy. For a moment, Emma felt her worries melt away, replaced by a rare sense of tranquility. Then, the Ferris wheel shuddered. The lights flickered, and a cold wind swept through the carriage, chilling Emma to the bone. The wheel stopped, their carriage swaying high above the ground. Emma's heart pounded as she clutched Danny's hand. "What's happening?" Danny asked, his voice tinged with fear. "I don't know," Emma replied, trying to stay calm. She looked down and saw the carnival had gone eerily silent. The crowds were frozen, as if time itself had stopped. Shadows began to shift and move among the tents below, creeping closer to the base of the Ferris wheel. Emma's breath caught in her throat when she saw ghostly figures emerging from the shadows. They were dressed in old-fashioned circus attire, their faces pale and their eyes hollow. One of them, a woman in a tattered dress, looked up directly at their carriage. Her mouth moved, forming words that Emma couldn't hear but could feel echoing in her mind. "The spirits," Emma whispered, her grip tightening on Danny's hand. "They're here." The Ferris wheel jerked back to life, but instead of descending, it spun faster and faster. The world around them blurred, and Emma felt like they were being pulled through a tunnel of darkness. She closed her eyes, holding on to Danny as tightly as she could. When the wheel finally slowed, they found themselves in a different place. The lights of the carnival were gone, replaced by the dim glow of lanterns. The air was thick with fog, and the sounds of distant, mournful music drifted through the night. The Ferris wheel creaked to a stop, and their carriage rocked gently. Emma and Danny stepped out onto solid ground, their legs shaky. They were no longer at the carnival, but in a desolate, ghostly version of it. The tents were torn and faded, and the attractions were eerily still. "Emma, where are we?" Danny asked, his voice trembling. "I think we're in the past," Emma replied, her eyes scanning the desolate landscape. "This must be the circus Madame Zara mentioned." As they ventured through the ghostly carnival, they saw more spectral figures, each one reliving moments of the tragic event that had cursed the land. They passed by the funhouse, its once lively facade now a crumbling ruin, and the carousel, where phantom children rode in endless circles, their laughter replaced by sorrowful whispers. At the center of it all stood the big top, its stripes faded and torn. Emma felt a strange pull towards it, as if something inside was calling to her. She took a deep breath and led Danny towards the entrance. Inside the big top, the air was thick with the scent of decay. Rows of empty seats circled a central ring where a spectral performance was taking place. The ghostly ringmaster, a tall figure with a twisted smile, commanded the attention of the spirits. His eyes, dark and malevolent, locked onto Emma and Danny as they entered. "Welcome, new visitors," he said, his voice echoing unnaturally. "You've come to witness the final act, haven't you?" Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She knew they had to uncover the truth and confront the spirits to break the curse. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, her voice steady despite her fear. The ringmaster's smile widened. "Revenge, my dear. We were wronged, and now we make others pay. The Carnival is our prison, and we are its wardens." Emma felt a surge of determination. "We'll find a way to set you free," she said, her voice firm. "We'll break the curse." The ringmaster laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the empty seats. "Many have tried, none have succeeded, but by all means, give it your best shot." As the ghostly performance continued around them, Emma knew they had to find the key to the curse's origins. She glanced at Danny, who looked scared but resolute. Together, they would face the horrors of the cursed carnival and uncover the truth that could set the spirits free. The spectral laughter and eerie performance inside the big top echoed in Emma's ears as she and Danny exited the tent. The air outside was thick with an otherworldly mist that seemed to cling to their skin. Emma knew they had to keep moving to find the next clue in their quest to break the curse. Danny tugged at her sleeve, pointing towards a structure that loomed through the fog. "Look, Emma. The mirror maze. Maybe we can find something in there." Emma nodded, though her heart was heavy with apprehension. The mirror maze was a twisting labyrinth even in the best of times, but now it felt like stepping into the unknown. She held Danny's hand tightly as they approached the entrance, its once bright facade now dull and foreboding. They entered the maze, and the world around them shifted into a disorienting array of reflections. The walls of mirrors created countless versions of themselves, each one slightly distorted. The dim light made the reflections seem almost alive, their eyes glinting with the life of their own. "Stay close to me, Danny," Emma whispered, squeezing his hand. "We can't get separated." They navigated the narrow corridors, their footsteps echoing in the confined space. The mirrors reflected not only their images, but also shadowy figures that seemed to move just out of sight. Emma felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. She could sense they were not alone in the maze. As they turned a corner, a flash of movement caught Emma's eye. She spun around, but there was nothing there except their reflections. Then she saw it again, a dark shape flitting between the mirrors, its presence sending a chill down her spine. "Did you see that?" Danny whispered, his voice trembling. Emma nodded, trying to stay calm. "Just keep moving. We have to find a way out." They pressed on, the maze growing more confounding with each step. The mirrors seemed to close in on them, and the air felt heavier. Suddenly, Danny cried out and let go of her hand. Emma turned to see him staring at a mirror, his face pale with fear. "What is it?" she asked, rushing to his side. In the mirror, she saw a twisted version of herself, eyes black and mouth twisted into a malevolent grin. The reflection moved on its own, reaching out towards them with clawed hands. Emma felt a surge of panic but forced herself to stay calm. "It's just a reflection," she said, though her voice wavered. "It can't hurt us." But as they continued, the reflections grew more menacing. They saw images of themselves in various states of distress, crying, screaming, trapped behind the glass. Each step deeper into the maze seemed to pull them further into a nightmare. Then, they reached a central chamber, where a large, ornate mirror stood at the center. Unlike the others, its surface was smooth and dark, almost like a portal. Emma felt an inexplicable urge to touch it, but something held her back. As they stared at the mirror, a figure emerged from the darkness within. It was the fortune teller, Madame Zara, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You have come far," she said, her voice echoing in the confined space. "But the hardest part is yet to come." Emma stepped forward, determined. "We want to break the curse. Tell us how." Madame Zara's expression softened. "The curse binds us all. To break it, you must face the truth of what happened here. The mirrors show not only your fears, but the past. Look closely, and you will see." Emma and Danny turned to the mirrors around them. Instead of their reflections, they now saw scenes from long ago. The carnival in its heyday, filled with joy and laughter. But the images darkened, showing a terrible fire, panicked crowds, and the vengeful spirits that rose from the ashes. Emma understood now. The curse was born from the tragedy that befell the carnival. The spirits were trapped, reliving their final moments and feeding off the energy of the living. Madame Zara's voice broke through her thoughts. "Find the relic that binds the curse, a piece of the past that holds their souls. Only then can you set them free." The mirror darkened, and Madame Zara vanished. Emma looked at Danny, who nodded, his fear replaced by determination. They turned back to the maze, their path now clear. They had to find the relic and confront the spirits to end the curse once and for all. As they navigated their way out of the maze, the reflections no longer threatened them but guided their way. Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were one step closer to breaking the curse and freeing the souls trapped in the carnival's grip. Emerging from the maze, they found themselves back in the foggy carnival grounds. The next step in their journey was clear. Find the enchanted carousel and uncover the relic that held the key to breaking the curse. The fog hung thick and heavy as Emma and Danny emerged from the mirror maze, their breaths visible in the cool night air. The eerie silence of the carnival was punctuated by the distant, haunting melody of a carousel. They followed the sound, its notes both enchanting and chilling, leading them to the center of the carnival grounds where the carousel stood. The carousel was unlike any they had seen before. Its ornate horses, painted in vibrant but faded colors, seemed almost lifelike. The golden lights that adorned its canopy flickered intermittently, casting long, dancing shadows on the ground. The music, played by an old-fashioned calliope, added to the unsettling atmosphere. Danny hesitated, gripping Emma's hand tightly. "Do we really have to go on this one?" Emma nodded, her eyes fixed on the carousel. "We have to find that relic, Danny. It's the only way to break the curse." They approached cautiously, the carousel's melody growing louder, more insistent. As they reached the edge, Emma noticed something strange. The children on the ride were not moving. Their faces were pale, eyes wide with fear, as if frozen in time. With a sinking feeling, Emma realized they were not just riders. They were trapped. "Danny, look," she whispered, pointing to the nearest child. "We have to help them." Danny swallowed hard but nodded. "How do we do it?" Emma glanced around, searching for any clue. Then she saw it, a small, intricately carved box mounted on the central pillar of the carousel. It glowed faintly, pulsating with an eerie light. "That must be the relic," she said, her voice firm. "We need to get to it." They climbed onto the carousel, its horses seeming to watch their every move. As they approached the central pillar, the ride suddenly jolted to life. The horses began to move, the lights flickered more intensely, and the music became a frantic, discordant tune. The carousel spun faster and faster, making it difficult to keep their balance. Emma reached for the box, but as her fingers brushed against it, a chilling voice echoed around them. "You dare to defy the curse?" Emma turned to see the ghostly ringmaster, his eyes burning with fury. You think you can break what binds us? You will join us instead. The carousel's speed increased, and Emma felt dizzy, but she held on tightly. "Danny, help me!" she shouted over the cacophony. Danny, his face set with determination, grabbed her hand to steady her. With a surge of strength, Emma pulled the box free from its mount. Instantly, the carousel screeched to a halt, throwing them both to the ground. The ghostly figures of the children shimmered, their expressions changing from fear to relief. The ringmaster's furious visage began to fade, replaced by one of sorrow. "No," he cried, his voice a whisper now. "You mustn't." But it was too late. The box in Emma's hands pulsed one last time before crumbling into dust. The trapped children vanished, their spirits freed from the carousel's grasp. The eerie glow dissipated, and the music ceased, leaving an almost palpable silence. Emma helped Danny to his feet, both of them breathing heavily. "We did it," she said, a mixture of exhaustion and triumph in her voice. "We freed them." Danny looked around, his eyes wide with wonder. "But what about the other spirits? We still need to break the curse completely." Emma nodded. "We need to find the other relics and confront the spirits of the ringmaster and his troop. Only then can we end this once and for all." As they left the now silent carousel, Emma felt a sense of urgency. They had made progress, but the curse still loomed over them. The next step in their journey was clear. They had to face the sinister clowns in the main attraction and uncover the next piece of the puzzle. With renewed determination, they set off towards the sinister clown show, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them. The pathway to the clown show tent was lined with garish posters of painted faces, their once cheerful expressions now twisted into sinister grins. The tent itself loomed ahead, its entrance flanked by two enormous clown statues whose eyes seemed to follow Emma and Danny as they approached. Emma's grip on Danny's hand tightened. "Stay close and keep your eyes open," she whispered, though her voice wavered slightly. She could sense the malevolence radiating from the tent, as if the very air was charged with a dark energy. They stepped inside and were immediately engulfed by the dim, flickering lights. The audience, a mix of carnival goers and shadowy figures, sat in eerie silence, their faces hidden in the shadows. At the center of the ring, a group of clowns performed a grotesque parody of a circus act, their movements jerky and unnatural. The lead clown, a tall figure with a cracked porcelain mask, stepped forward, his voice echoing through the tent. "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the greatest show of horrors on Earth." His laugh was a chilling sound, more like a scream than a chuckle. Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. She scanned the room, searching for any sign of the next relic. Her eyes settled on a large, ornate trunk at the edge of the ring. It was decorated with intricate designs and seemed to pulse with a faint, ominous glow. "That must be it," she whispered to Danny, nodding towards the trunk. "We need to get to it." But as they made their way down the aisle, the clown's performance took a dark turn. One by one, they began to notice Emma and Danny, their painted smiles turning into menacing sneers. The lead clown pointed a gloved hand at them, and the audience's murmur rose into a cacophony of mocking laughter. "Look, everyone, new volunteers for our act," the lead clown announced, his voice dripping with malice. The clowns advanced on them, their movements unnaturally swift and fluid. Emma and Danny backed away, but the audience closed in, blocking their escape. The ring of clowns grew tighter, their laughter echoing in Emma's ears. With no other option, Emma grabbed a nearby chair and swung it at the nearest clown. The chair shattered on impact, but the clown merely staggered, a dark, oozy substance dripping from the cracks in his mask. Danny grabbed another chair and followed suit, trying to fend off their attackers. "We need to get to that trunk!" Emma shouted, her voice barely audible over the chaos. Danny nodded, his face pale but determined. They fought their way towards the trunk, the clown's laughter growing more frenzied with each step. Finally, they reached the trunk, its surface glowing with a sinister light. Emma knelt beside it, her hands trembling as she searched for a way to open it. "There must be a key or something," she muttered, her fingers tracing the intricate designs. Suddenly, the lead clown lunged at them, his porcelain mask cracking further to reveal hollow, burning eyes. "You can't escape the show," he hissed, his voice a chilling whisper. Danny reacted quickly, grabbing a nearby torch from a sconce on the tent wall. He thrust it at the lead clown, who recoiled with a screech. The firelight illuminated the trunk's lock, revealing a hidden compartment. Emma reached inside and found a small, ornate key. With a swift motion, she unlocked the trunk. Inside, they found a collection of old, tattered costumes and a small, gilded mirror. The mirror's surface shimmered with an otherworldly light. "The mirror," Emma said, her voice urgent. "This must be the relic." As she lifted the mirror from the trunk, the clowns froze, their expressions turning from menace to fear. The lead clown let out a final desperate scream before crumbling into dust, his fellow performers following suit. The tent fell silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as the clowns vanished. Emma and Danny stood there, breathing heavily. The audience, now revealed to be nothing more than illusions, faded away, leaving them alone in the empty tent. "We did it," Danny said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We found the second relic." Emma nodded, holding the mirror tightly. "But we're not done yet. We still have to face the ringmaster and the funhouse." With a renewed sense of purpose, they exited the tent, the gilded mirror in hand. The carnival grounds were quieter now, the fog beginning to lift. They knew their journey was far from over, but with each relic they found, they were one step closer to breaking the curse. Their next destination was clear, the abandoned funhouse, where the final confrontation awaited. As they walked through the fading mist, Emma felt a mixture of fear and determination. The spirits of the cursed carnival were growing weaker, but the most dangerous part of their journey was yet to come. The path to the funhouse was shrouded in an eerie quiet, the once lively carnival now a shadow of its former self. Emma and Danny approached the looming structure, its gaudy colors faded and its lights dimmed. The entrance, a gaping mouth of a grotesque clown, seemed to beckon them inside with a silent promise of terror. Danny shivered, gripping Emma's hand tightly. "Do we really have to go in there?" Emma nodded, trying to muster a confidence she didn't feel. "We've come this far. We can't stop now." The interior of the funhouse was a labyrinth of narrow hallways, distorted mirrors, and unexpected traps. As they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them, sealing them in darkness. Emma fumbled for her flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom to reveal a twisted world of reflections and shadows. "Stay close, Danny," she whispered, her voice echoing eerily in the confined space. They navigated the maze, the reflections warped and twisted in the funhouse mirrors. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, and every creak of the floorboards sent a shiver down Emma's spine. She could feel the eyes of unseen entities watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. Suddenly, a high-pitched laugh echoed through the halls, followed by the clattering of footsteps. Emma swung the flashlight around, but saw nothing but their distorted reflections. The laugh came again, closer this time, and Emma felt Danny's grip tighten in fear. "We have to keep moving," she said, trying to sound braver than she felt. They turned a corner and found themselves in a room filled with funhouse mirrors. Each mirror reflected a different version of themselves, some more twisted and horrifying than others. Emma felt a sense of déjà vu, remembering the mirror maze and the visions they had seen there. In the center of the room stood a large, cracked mirror. Unlike the others, it reflected a scene from the past, the funhouse in its prime, filled with laughing children and carefree adults. But as Emma watched, the scene darkened, showing the fire that had consumed the carnival, the panicked crowds and the spirits rising from the ashes. A figure stepped out of the mirror, its form shifting and ethereal. It was Madame Zara, her eyes filled with sorrow. "You've come far, but the worst is yet to come. The funhouse holds the final key to breaking the curse." Emma approached the mirror, her hand outstretched. "What do we need to do?" Madame Zara's form flickered. The funhouse was the heart of the carnival's joy, and its destruction was the source of the curse's power. You must confront the spirit of the funhouse and find the object that binds the curse. Only then can you set us free. The image faded, and the mirror shattered, the pieces scattering across the floor. Emma turned to Danny, who looked both terrified and determined. "We have to find that object," she said, her voice steady. "Let's go." They continued through the maze, the atmosphere growing more oppressive with each step. The walls seemed to close in on them, and the laughter of the unseen spirits grew louder. Emma felt like they were walking into the heart of a nightmare. Finally, they reached the center of the funhouse, a large circular room filled with old, broken carnival props. In the middle of the room stood a twisted figure, its form shifting between that of a clown and a monstrous entity. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light as it turned to face them. "You seek to break the curse?" it hissed, its voice a chorus of whispers. "You will fail, just like the others." Emma stepped forward, holding the gilded mirror in one hand and the key from the carousel in the other. "We will break the curse," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "Tell us what we need to do." The figure laughed, a sound that sent chills down their spines. "The object you seek is here, but you must face your worst fears to claim it. Are you ready?" Emma nodded, though fear clawed at her heart. "We're ready." The figure gestured, and the room transformed into a twisted version of the funhouse, filled with their darkest nightmares. Emma saw visions of her and Danny trapped forever in the carnival, their souls twisted by the curse. She felt a surge of panic, but forced herself to stay focused. "We have to find the object!" she shouted over the cacophony of sounds and visions. "Don't let the illusions distract you!" Danny nodded, his face pale but determined. Together, they searched the room, fighting off the illusions and the spirits that tried to stop them. Emma's heart pounded as she saw a small, ornate box hidden among the debris. She grabbed it, feeling its power pulse through her. "This is it!" she cried, holding the box aloft. The illusions around them shattered, and the twisted figure let out a final, anguished scream before disintegrating into dust. The funhouse returned to its dilapidated state, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. Emma and Danny stood there, breathing heavily, the box in Emma's hand glowing faintly. "We did it," Danny said, his voice a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We found the final piece." Emma nodded, her heart filled with hope. Now we just need to confront the ringmaster and end this curse for good. With the final relic in their possession, they made their way out of the funhouse, ready for the last, desperate bid for freedom. The ringmaster and his vengeful spirits awaited, but Emma and Danny were determined to face them and break the curse once and for all. The weight of the relic in Emma's hand felt both reassuring and ominous as she and Danny exited the funhouse. The carnival grounds, now eerily silent and shrouded in fog, seemed to pulsate with a malevolent energy. Emma knew they were close to the end, but the most dangerous part of their journey still lay ahead. As they made their way through the deserted carnival, the distant sound of a haunting melody drew them towards the center. There, under the dim glow of a single spotlight, stood the big top tent. Its faded stripes and tattered edges gave it the appearance of a spectral sentinel guarding the heart of the cursed carnival. They paused at the entrance, the flap rustling in the wind like a whisper of forgotten voices. Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "This is it, Danny. Stay close and be ready for anything." Danny nodded, his face pale but resolute. Together, they stepped inside the big top, their footsteps echoing on the worn wooden floor. The interior was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of old sawdust and decay. At the center of the ring stood the ghostly ringmaster, his tall figure clad in a tattered coat and top hat, his eyes burning with a cold, vengeful fire. "Welcome, brave souls," he intoned, his voice reverberating through the empty seats. "You have done well to make it this far, but your journey ends here." Emma held up the relics, the gilded mirror and the ornate box, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. "We're here to break the curse and set the spirits free. Tell us what we need to do." The ringmaster's eyes narrowed, his expression a mix of anger and sorrow. "You think you can undo what has been wrought by blood and fire? This carnival is our prison, and you shall join us in its eternal torment." With a wave of his hand, the ringmaster summoned the spirits of the carnival. Ghostly figures emerged from the shadows, their faces twisted with pain and rage. They formed a circle around Emma and Danny, their spectral forms flickering in the dim light. Emma felt a chill run down her spine, but she stood her ground. "We're not afraid of you," she said, her voice firm. "We've faced our fears and overcome them. Now it's time to end this." The ringmaster's laughter was a hollow, chilling sound. "Very well. To break the curse, you must confront the past and understand the pain that binds us here. Only then will you be able to release us." As he spoke, the air around them shimmered, and Emma and Danny found themselves transported back in time. The carnival was alive again, vibrant and bustling with activity. The big top was filled with spectators, their faces alight with anticipation. In the center ring, the ringmaster and his troupe performed, their acts a dazzling display of skill and artistry. But then the scene darkened. The air grew thick with smoke, and the joyful cheers turned to screams of terror. Emma watched in horror as the fire consumed the tent, the performers and audience trapped in the inferno. The ringmaster's anguished cry echoed through the chaos as he and his troupe perished in the flames. The scene shifted again, showing the spirits of the performers rising from the ashes, their faces etched with grief and fury. They were bound to the carnival by the tragedy, their souls trapped in a cycle of torment. Emma understood now. The curse was born from their suffering, their desire for justice and revenge. "We're sorry for what happened to you," she said softly, her voice filled with empathy. "But holding on to this pain and anger won't bring you peace. Let us help you find freedom." The ringmaster's expression softened, his eyes reflecting a deep, lingering sorrow. "To break the curse, you must release us from our anger and forgive the past. Only then can we move on." Emma nodded, her resolve strengthening. She placed the relics on the ground and stepped back, holding Danny's hand. "We forgive you, and we ask for your forgiveness in return. It's time to let go." The relics glowed brightly, their light enveloping the spirits. The ringmaster and his troop began to fade, their expressions of pain replaced by ones of peace and relief. As the last of the spirits vanished, the big top dissolved into the ether, leaving Emma and Danny standing alone in the empty carnival grounds. The fog lifted, and the air felt lighter, the oppressive energy dissipating. Emma turned to Danny, a sense of calm and triumph washing over her. "We did it, Danny. The curse is broken." Danny smiled, his eyes shining with relief. "We really did it." As they made their way back to the entrance of the carnival, the first light of dawn broke on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the grounds. The once cursed carnival was now just an abandoned relic of the past, its ghosts finally laid to rest. Emma and Danny knew they would never forget the horrors they had faced, but they also knew they had triumphed over them. The cursed carnival was no more, and they had emerged stronger for it. Together, they walked away, ready to face whatever new challenges life might bring. The first light of dawn bathed the carnival grounds in a soft golden glow as Emma and Danny walked towards the exit. The oppressive fog had lifted, and the air felt fresh and clean, a stark contrast to the haunting atmosphere they had endured. The remnants of the cursed carnival lay silent, the spirits finally at peace. Emma glanced back at the now desolate grounds, a mixture of relief and lingering unease settling over her. "We need to tell someone about this place," she said, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "People need to know what happened here." Danny nodded, his face pale but determined. "Do you think anyone will believe us?" Emma shrugged, knowing the story sounded unbelievable. "We'll find a way to make them understand. The truth needs to come out." They reached the entrance where the once grand gates now stood ajar, leading back to the real world. The morning light seemed to promise a new beginning, a return to normalcy. But as they stepped through the gates, they knew their lives had been irrevocably changed. A group of townspeople had gathered outside the carnival grounds, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Among them was Sheriff Thompson, a stern but fair man who had known Emma and Danny since they were children. He approached them, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Emma? Danny? What happened in there?" he asked, his voice urgent. Emma took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "It's a long story, Sheriff, but the carnival was cursed. The spirits of the performers and visitors were trapped there, reliving their final moments over and over. We managed to break the curse and set them free." The sheriff looked skeptical, but saw the earnestness in their eyes. "Let's get you both to safety. You can tell me everything once you've had a chance to rest." They were led away from the carnival, the concerned murmurs of the townspeople following them. As they recounted their harrowing experience, Sheriff Thompson listened intently, his expression shifting from disbelief to a grim understanding. He promised to investigate the site thoroughly and ensure the story of the cursed carnival would be told. Days turned into weeks, and the tale of the cursed carnival spread through the town of Glenwood. News crews arrived, and the site became a subject of fascination and fear. Experts examined the grounds, uncovering remnants of the tragic fire and verifying parts of Emma and Danny's story. Emma and Danny became local heroes, their bravery and determination praised by everyone who heard their story. But despite the accolades, they struggled with the memories of what they had faced. The horrors of the carnival haunted their dreams, and they found solace only in knowing they had freed the trapped spirits. One evening, as they sat on the porch of their home, Danny turned to Emma, a thoughtful look on his face. "Do you think the spirits are really at peace now?" Emma nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "I think so. We helped them find closure. And in doing so, Maybe we found some for ourselves too. Danny smiled, the weight of their ordeal slowly lifting. We did something good, didn't we? Yes, we did, Emma replied, her heart swelling with pride. We faced our fears and made a difference, and that's something no curse can ever take away. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over their home, Emma and Danny knew they had emerged stronger from their ordeal. The cursed carnival was a chapter of their lives that would never be forgotten, but it had also taught them the power of courage, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between siblings. The town of Glenwood moved on, but the story of the cursed carnival remained a chilling reminder of the past. And though Emma and Danny would always carry the memories of that fateful night, they faced the future with a newfound strength and a promise to protect each other, no matter what horrors might come their way.